small little technical glitch we experienced. But the good news is we have got the most awesome conditions to approach this herd of elephants. They are basically moving straight north. The wind is blowing straight west towards us, as you can see from my ash bag. So there's no ways they're going to smell us. But what's interesting, like I said, when we first bumped into them, we were quite close. Thankfully they didn't catch wind of us, but we had to do a massive big loop around to get the wind in our favor. And we actually saw where they reached our trail, where we had walked to loop around of them. They all stopped, started sniffing the trail where we had walked. Once they'd had a quick assessment, they've now continued on peacefully, and now we're just leapfrogging ahead, so I'm sure we're going to get you some more views shortly. You've always got to keep checking the wind, because the weather can be unreliable, and sometimes the wind can start to swirl, and if we are close to them when that happens, we could be in a spot of bother. So we're just going to take our time, not rush this perfect situation. We don't want to blow our cover. So we'll just keep creeping along. There's also quite a few young babies within this herd, which means their mothers are going to be extremely protective of them. And out of all the animals you can approach on foot in Africa, elephants are one of the most dangerous. Just saw a stump that confused me, but always worth double checking. Now I'm sure by the time we get up to this big marula tree ahead of us, we'll be in a good spot where we've got a little bit of cover from that big tree, as well as we should be on the right spot to intercept them on the trajectory that they've been moving. Wind's still good. Yeah, they are, yeah. So I've just spotted one that's going to be tricky to see for now. But what I would like to do is, we've actually got a good termite mound to our left that we can use as cover if need be. And what I think we can do is actually creep up a little bit further. I know you guys may not have been able to see the elephant, but it is straight ahead of us. How exciting is this? Sneaking up on Africa's largest mammal. Okay. It's very thick bush, but Dave might be able to work his magic and get you some views of their legs moving through a little gap there. Interestingly, they've kind of stopped moving. They've obviously found some tasty snacks somewhere in that thick vegetation. It seems like it is a little bit tricky, it's a little bit too thick. But like I say, sometimes we just have to work on Mother Nature's clock and be patient. Any luck there, Dave? Okay, what we can do is keep moving down a little bit this way. When the wind is so heavily in your favor, it really helps when approaching like this. And while we take our time to get you a better view, we need to rush you off somewhere very exciting with the dogs.
Now, I know you've been rushed back to us for something very exciting, but there's been not too much of exciting things been going on. These dogs have been keeping us on our toes. They jump up, they all communicate, they're in a big circle, they all do their bonding, and then they lie down again. And then we relax, and then they do the same again. So it's really been keeping us on our toes, and now it looks like they're going a little bit deeper into a bit of sleep. But I tell you what, it really changes in a split second. One of them jumps up, they're all up, and then they relax again. So I do think it's a lot to do with the wind that is coming through. It does make a lot of animals quite edgy, and no less so than the wild dogs as well. But you see that just one of them lifts their head. They've got lots of eyes and ears around. They're never completely still. Obviously there's a vehicle that's just moving around a little bit, so they also pick up their heads and just check what's going on. But it's still fascinating to watch, because even though wild dogs they might seem like they're all sleeping, there's always at least one of them with their ears out and their eyes open. Sherry, that's a very good question coming through. How would the wild dogs react to humans walking through the bush? Well, they're not aggressive towards humans. They also know that we are also apex predators, so they are very cautious of us, and if you don't show them any signs of aggression or sign of danger, they can be quite curious and they can come towards you, but that's if you sit down, you make yourself a little bit smaller, then they might not feel so threatened and they can come near. So wild dogs, we need to be very cautious of them when we're out on foot, but we don't need to be extremely scared of them, and vice versa. So obviously as a human we would normally be outnumbered by them, so we do need to be careful. Now, speaking of wild dogs and humans out on foot, let's go back to Scott, who is still out on foot, and I think still looking for those big hairy animals he was talking about.
We are doing our best to get you guys some views of them, but like I said, we really don't want to let these elephants know we're here and ruin their day and give them a fright, so we are going to take our time. Let's see though if we can't snipe you a little view over here. That's better. There we go. There you can see one of the youngsters, another slightly larger one to the right of it. But tricky conditions for now. But we are definitely going to keep with this herd and keep looping ahead until we hopefully get you some better views. Come along. Watch your step as you go. Let's hope it doesn't take too long for those wild dogs to get moving, because that is going to be incredibly exciting stuff and good prospects. And before the wild dogs do get up and active, we just need to do some quick technical fixes. I'm not too sure what the issue is, but we need to let our tech wizards work their wizardry. So we're going to close down the safari just for a few minutes. It will be as quick as we can. Be sure you are waiting for both these ellies and those wild dogs to wake up. As soon as we get things back up and running, we'll see you shortly. To get some epic views of these elephants, they've thankfully dropped down into a riverbed. And I'm hoping they're going to continue to work their way up towards us in this riverbed. The first one's just popped out into a good view. And the great thing about this is we are completely safe here. We've got this massive steep ledge below us that there's no ways they're going to be able to climb up. Here we go. And if we keep dead still, their eyesight's not great. With all the bushes blowing in the wind, it will also help mask whatever little movements we make to help us blend in. There's Big Mama. And it seems like this is a mother with two of her different youngsters from different litters. Obviously the slightly bigger one is closer to us, and the mother is with the smaller one behind that tree with the yellow flowers. They're not moving in exactly the direction I was hoping they were going to. I was really hoping they were going to walk right below us, but we are still getting some wonderful views, and they are such peaceful animals to watch going about their business, especially when we get some good views like we're getting now. Now what's interesting is that there are only what appear to be 3 members in this herd. There could be other members further off to the east in the direction they're moving in. They do kind of split up and do their own thing from side to time, but the thing is the direction they're moving in now, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for us to follow them effectively, because we're going to be following them from behind as opposed to how they were moving earlier. They've moved from more of a northerly direction into an easterly direction. So what I'm thinking of doing is leaving these guys be and seeing what else we can find you guys. It sounds like Tristan has found you guys a far smaller, far faster animal that's somewhere in the sky.
Well, it's not in the sky, and of course it's going to take off because, well, that's just the way everything is going today. Nothing is really going according to plan. But what we did have was a little barn swallows, and it's amazing to watch them on Chitwa airstrip because they all seem to be sitting down on the airstrip itself as though they are cold or that there is some sort of reason for it. And I don't really understand why they're all sitting. You can see they all sit like that, and they kind of hunker down, and then every now and then they just pop up, and then they'll fly off again and land, and then they kind of sit in that position. So it's a really odd position for them to be sitting in, and there's lots of them. They're all up and down Chitwa airstrip. I was trying to get to a situation where we could get to that leopard just now, but we unfortunately were kind of disturbed a lot of them, so I'm glad that they're back in this area. Now, for those of you that wanted to see, I'm not sure how much of the leopard was actually seen, but I thought I would just take a video of what we recorded, because we did see a bit of the leopard and it then ran southwards. So according to everybody else, it is Hosanna, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe some of you will be able to get an ID from a spotted backside. I know some of you are that good, so I'll press play. We put it in slow motion so some of you can screenshot it and be able to see it for you, and that's it kind of running down and away from us after a warthog. Now I think it is Hosanna. I'm not 100% sure. Like I say, I mean, it's difficult from just a brief glimpse of a leopard. Right, now we'll go back to that area just now. Hopefully
Yes, so these dogs have gotten up. They're all starting to be very active now. Lots of them have been brushing themselves underneath the trees and the branches. They all look very excited. So it does seem like we're in for a little bit of a treat shortly. They're all facing into the wind. Obviously, that's the direction that they would hunt. So we can almost judge which the way they're going to go, which is exactly the direction that they're starting to move in now. And they're coming just past the vehicle. I'm a little bit curious about us too, but I'm very sure that they're going to move off into the wind, because that would be the easiest way for them to go undetected by any prey that would be leading up to that. Eric the Poet asking the question, how does sneezing play a role with wild dog packs? Well, that's a very good question, Eric. It does seem that they almost start to sneeze when they're going to be starting to become active. So just a little while ago, one of them started to sneeze a little bit, and they've all started to sneeze now as they're getting active. So it might be just a physiological reaction to starting to be active, but it might also be a bit of a communication. And here we've got one just biting on a branch, maybe getting that softness of the branch, cleaning his teeth a little bit, but also just becoming active, and that's what they all start to do. And off to the right a little bit, they're all starting to do the greeting ceremony. Now that one, obviously, we're just leaving, you could see was a male, and I'm pretty sure that the one with the collar, when you see it, is probably the alpha male, because generally the researchers would like to put the tracking devices onto one of the alphas, and you know how it works with wild dogs. You do have an alpha male and a female, and all the males in this group will be brothers, and all the females will be sisters, but obviously not from the same family. So when these or this group would get to a point where you'd have a split, the females would split in a group, and they would move off and try and find a group of males that had split from another group, and then from those males and females they establish an alpha male or female, and then those are the two designated breeders, and all the rest of the group will assist in breeding, in protecting the young, the den guarders, catching food, etc. And they're all helping to literally pass their gene through the line, and that in such way, that is what we call kin selection. So they're selecting one of their own to be the ambassador for their genetic line. Very interesting indeed. And as they start to get mobile, all that we hope is that they don't cross out of the boundary, because we are right near to the Buffelshoek Gowrie cut line, so it can be quite easy that they cross over that, and unfortunately we're not allowed to follow them over that line. But I'm going to turn the vehicle up. I'm just going to get a better angle on these animals. But if we're lucky, they carry on down this fire break and they turn back into our property. Now, you know, wild dogs are very nomadic animals, so you can never be still for too long. They've got huge home ranges and not any particular territory, so these animals could literally move anywhere. It's all about where the next meal is going to come from. And that is why, one of the reasons why wild dogs are so endangered is because they are such efficient hunters and they move such massive areas that it's normally come into contact with farmers and livestock farmers in particular. So we're just going to continue following them slowly, trying not to disturb them as we go. And once they start to move, as I say, then we might actually have to pick up the pace a little bit and have to follow them a little bit faster. So get ready for that if it does happen, that we're going to go on a little bit of a roller coaster ride, because we don't want to lose them and we do want to see what they get up to if they stay within our premises. It's always fascinating and exciting to be with a group of apex predators like this. What a privilege, eh? Just try whenever I can just to switch off a little bit, just so that we're back in silence with them. Don't like to have the vehicle running all the time. But, we are still with them. They're not moving too fast at the moment. They have started to get on the move, and that's very positive for us. Lots of tail wagging, lots of yawning. Cheetah Riker asking a very good question. How do they put a collar onto one of the animals without disturbing the rest? Now, it is quite a difficult thing to do, but they will have to isolate that alpha, and they will have to dart him. And yes, it is quite risky, because if he's released and allowed back into the group, he might get rejected. So the researchers and the vet who is responsible for that needs to be very careful and be very quick in that whole procedure. They don't want to put too much of their own smell on the animal, and they also don't want to keep him away for very long, because the group then might reject him after that. So they drop him, they put that collar on, they wake him up, and they get him back into that group as quickly as possible. So they think that maybe he just sort of hung around in one little area, and you've got to get them back into that group ASAP. Now, I'm hoping that they don't continue in the direction that they're moving, because if they do, we might be out of luck. And it looks like half the group is now on the cut line, moving across, and we might be getting a little bit unlucky here, folks. But let's see. They might move along the cut line itself, and they might cut back in. It's a little bit strange that they've started to move with the wind, but they might just be circling. You know, wild dogs, you can almost never judge what they're going to do next. That's what makes it so exciting. Sometimes they almost seem like they don't know which way they want to go. They were going in that direction, heading straight over Buffelshoek and Gowrie cut line. Now they're going along the cut line. Maybe they're trying to throw us off the trail as well. Anyway, let's see what happens here. They've all moved now with the wind, as I say, but maybe they'll move with the wind a little bit, and then maybe they'll cut back again. I'm not sure. Sorry about that pole once more. As you can see, that weather is keeping us with our rain covers on. Now, I'm going to get onto the cut line, or should I? I don't think I should. They're really going around in circles here, folks. They've literally almost gone back to where they started. So we've got one vehicle running around on the cut line there. I'm going to just turn around and almost go back to where we started. So I've done a full circle here. There they are, just in front of us. And we might be turning around again, who knows. We're just going to try and keep up with them. Sorry if there's any holes that I drive through, a little bit bumpy, shaky on the camera there. I'll try to keep Senzo inside the vehicle. Yes, thanks folks. All the comments coming through, how rare and how exciting it is to see the wild dogs again. I think I'm going to get onto the fire break here, and I'm going to just stick with them. We've got a vehicle out on the cut line, so as long as we've got them in between us, we'll know exactly where they are. Let's just get out here. Now, it looks like they've cut back again, but they are moving in the cut line. Let's go out of low range. Judy asking a very good question there. Do wild dogs ever approach people and growl like a domestic dog? Well, they, like I said a little bit earlier, on foot they are quite curious, but they don't generally growl quite the same as a domestic dog. They're a little bit more squeaky and got quite a few different sounds than that of your domestic dog. They do have a very characteristic hoo call, which is calling each other, if they might get split up for whatever reason, or if they've left the den site and they want to call some of the youngsters, they will give a very characteristic hoo call, which can travel very far, and in so doing they're able to communicate over long distances. Now, we're still quite lucky. They're moving along that opposite cut line now. I will just start up now and we keep going, and then it looks like they might be staying on the cut line now, and then I do want to get the best picture here as possible, but as soon as we go across to the cut line, I'm sure that they're going to come across to the fire break. So I just want to be sure if they are staying on that cut line, then I will cut across. But we've got a few individuals now coming across towards us, so just try and hang with them. At the moment they're giving us a good opportunity to stay with them. So, and there's in front, there's just a little road that does go towards the cut line, so I can cut across a little bit. I do just speed up a little bit just to catch up with them. This is all very exciting. There they are. Now folks, this is an action broadcast, so sorry for all the bumps, and we do have relatively difficult roads to drive through here. It's almost 4x4 country, but we'll stay with them, don't you worry. And I do need to just get through this little dip, and then once we're on the other side, we'll be able to catch up with them a little bit better. So we're going to lose visual now, but as we get up we'll see them again. Just need to keep my eyes on the road so that I don't throw Senzo out the back, because if that happens then we'll have nobody to direct the camera on these wild dogs. Right, there they are. Okay, I'm going to cut across to the cut line so that we can get a bit of a better view of them as we go. There they are, just in front here. They've cut across there, still going up the cut line. So there's one or two running through through the thick brush. The rest of them are all going along the cut line itself. So let's get onto the cut line. Right. Okay folks, there they are on the road, a little bit up ahead of us. So we're now with wild dogs right behind them. Now folks, while we're busy following them, please send through your questions, send through your comments. We'd love to hear from you while we're in the middle of this live movement with wild dogs. I don't want to say exactly that they're on the hunt, but you never know, we might get on the hunt right behind them. So please get involved. And a comment coming through from Susie that she still loves the patterns of the wild dogs. Absolutely. And as you can see, looking even from here, we can see that there's slight differences to all the particular individuals. There, that one on the left's got a lovely patch of white going up towards the collar. Obviously the one with the collar, he's got that lovely white tip with a black band. Okay, we're going to have to start up here and move towards these dogs. We can't let them get too far ahead of us, otherwise we lose them completely very quickly. So they're back out on the road. That is promising. Okay, and I'll just keep catching up. Jackie asking the question, how can you tell if it's an alpha male? Well, you will see, it is quite similar to that of domestic dogs. When they show subordination, it's a lot of putting the ears back, being lower than the other animal, and that's where you've got to watch quite carefully. In this group, okay, we do know that there's one male with the collar on, so it's given it away a little bit. But if you watch them for an extended period of time and you watch the subordination between the groups, you'll start to see that obviously the alpha male, he won't show subordination to any of them. So also licking at the side of mouths, that's a way to make them regurgitate meat, but it is also a way of showing subordination to a dominant individual. So when you, even with your domestic dogs, when you have two dogs greet each other and you see one licking the other one next to the mouth, is generally subordinate to that animal that he's licking. So that's one of the ways, putting the ears back, lying down, being lower than the animal, all subordinate behavior. Mary asking the question, do wild dogs ever kick one of their own out of the pack? Well, Mary, I think it is possible, but that would entail one of the subordinate individuals maybe challenging the alpha, whether it's female or male. That could result in either that dominant animal being kicked out to one of the youngsters, but it's very rare. These animals are so in tune with each other, so predictably wanting their genes to continue, that they work together without fail. And you can almost see it, the way that they move as well. They're almost thinking the same way too. Now, I just keep stopping just so that we can see the little behavior of each. There are some that are stopping and a little bit of marking, letting other animals know that they are in the area, but they're not territorial, so they're not doing it in the same place as the other individuals. But how lovely is that, hey? Moving up behind wild dogs. Wow. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And one of them is just being left behind. So there he's catching up. Okay, folks. So I'm going to continue following up behind these wild dogs. And I will let you know if anything amazing happens. But in the meantime, let's go catch up with Tristan and see what he is up to. Okay, sorry folks, there was a little bit of a mix-up there, but I think that we've made a good choice by staying with me, because look at what's happening now. These wild dogs are really starting to get excited. They're jumping all over each other. Look at that. They're like quite gymnastic, eh? And very athletic animals. They are incredibly mobile and agile, and they're really built like a mix between a sprinter and a long distance runner, and that's exactly what they are. Now I need to catch up with them a little bit because we're quite far behind, and they can move like lightning. So, and they've gone into a block, so we just catch up a little bit. Sorry for the speed, but it's of vital importance that we catch up with them. Okay, folks, while we race around and try and catch up with them, let's go over to the bushwalk and see what they might have been able to find in the meantime.
Well, I'm so excited for you guys that you've got those wild dogs on the move, and let's hope Ralph gets you into another good spot shortly. We just thought we would race you off to a bush toilet quickly. And if we look closely on this tree over here, we can see a whole bunch of grass splattered against this tree, and hundreds of tiny little particles even at the base of the tree here. We can see quite a few small pieces over here. And what would have happened is a gigantic hippopotamus would have been walking down the path over here. He would have got to somewhere over here, and then he would have started pooping. And when they poop, they fan their tail, breaking up the dung, sending it flying in all directions. And that way they leave a very clear indicator for other hippos that they've been here, because other hippos will use this as a communicatory device. They'll be able to tell from the scent of this dung which hippo it was, what kind of mood it was in. Maybe it's a lady looking for a husband, who knows. And what's also further interesting about this is that we're very far from any water holes, and you always need to remember when moving through the African bush that hippos can always surprise you away from water. When they head out from water to feed in the late evening or on the early morning, when they're on their way back to the water, you could run into trouble. So it's always something worth remembering. Even if you're not next to an area where you're expecting to find animals, you may get a surprise. Very good. Well, it sounds like Ralph isn't in position with the wild dogs yet, but James is with some elephants.
We are with some elephants and some hippos and lots of other nice things here at Chitwa Dam. There they are, two bulls having a little bit of a boxing match with each other in the water. I don't think it's a real boxing match, I think they're having fun. Oh, I've made the pole perfectly positioned. I'm so good at parking the pole in pole position. Aha, 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 aha. Right, Fergus is just going to lock off this shot, and then he's going to deploy Ronald. Now, pug lover, I'm assuming you don't mean the pug dog, surely. Really? Is he moving? Pug lover, you want to know how big elephant tusks get? Much bigger than the ones we've got on those ones. These elephants, infants in general, pug lover, have got much smaller tusks than they used to. And that is because the genes for big tusks have obviously been shot out by friendly conservationist hunters. Well, that's how they term themselves, no doubt. And so sadly we don't get enormously tusked elephants anymore, but there are one or two in the Kruger. They are known to have some of the biggest in the world that still have tusks that touch the ground, and I believe that some of the biggest tusks ever were between 60 and 74 pounds, I think. So one side was 60 and the other was 74 pounds of ivory. They're always measured in pounds. It's not surprising, really, that the hunting fraternity tends to live in, well, an age when the metric system wasn't in vogue. Alright, now here we go. Ronald is making his way to the Ellies, who are now diving for cover. This is wonderful. I mean, this elephant sighting on its own is spectacular. They're completely submerged, rolling around. It's not even a hot day. It really is just magnificent. The other one's disappeared completely. And you can see how their skin goes totally dark. We're going to do an action broadcast now, everybody, so I'm just going to go quiet. Do you want to move forward, Ferg? That's fine. Right, hello everybody, welcome to our new viewers for our unscheduled action broadcast on social media. It's wonderful to have you with us. We're coming to you live out of the Sabi Sands in South Africa. My name is James Hendry. Hello, Fergus is on camera, and that over there is Ronald the Rover, and he is going to try and get you a mongoose eye view of these magnificent elephants. There they go. And they're having the best time. It's not hot today, but they're two bulls. I wouldn't call them very young bulls, but they're certainly not old enough to have given up on the fun of playing. And so they're just playing with each other in the water, having a rightly wonderful old time. Now what's interesting to me here is that they are so dark. Can you see how dark they are there? Now they are dark like that because their skin is not in fact waterproof. And so rather like a piece of leather that you might, or your shoe that you might soak in water by mistake, so they go that dark color because their skin absorbs water unlike ours does. So that's quite interesting. Now we've had greetings from Romania, I think, from Shana. No, Shana's in Orlando. And hello Catherine, all the way in Maryland. Now, I think, are we ready to go and have a look at Ronald's picture? Ronald is my friend the Rover, as I said, and look, he's making his way down towards the elephants. He gets very lonely, you see, so now he's going to go and see if he can enjoy a little bit of elephant action. They are totally oblivious to him. In front of him you can see some Egyptian geese. And we are very much in the experimental stages of using this rover, and the reason we use it just is to get us a slightly different perspective of the wild. The purpose is not for the technology itself. It is eventually, hopefully, so that we can watch things completely without affecting the behavior of the animals we're wanting to watch. Now Luke, you're wondering about how long they can hold their breath for. I don't think for much longer than 30 seconds. And if you watch them carefully, it's very seldom that their trunks will be under the water for longer than, say, I think the longest we saw here was about 20 seconds. So maybe let's say 30 seconds to a minute. But they swim very well. And they cross enormous expanses of water if they have to. Certainly they do it in the Okavango, they do it around Lake Kruger, aka an enormous dam that humans built and put in the way of where they used to walk. Oh, they're having the best time. We saw them initially and thought they were having quite an aggressive fight out of the water. But in fact, it's just friendly banter. Oh, that's wonderful. Ronald's got a beautiful picture of them now. Hello, elephants. Isn't that wonderful? Sherry, you say you're coming to the Sabi Sands in next June. Well, it'll be wonderful if you can come and see us, Sherry. And I'm sure you can't wait. The Sabi Sands is the part of South Africa we're in, everybody. And it really is a magnificent piece of land that we find ourselves most privileged to call home. Ronald is now stuck. I cannot move him any further. Come on, let me just try and change something. No, he appears to be entirely mired in some form of sand, perhaps. Anyway, we've got a great view of the elephants. Let's continue to watch the elephants after we've seen that Ronald is not in fact able to move. I hope he is not going to get covered in water. Now, it's not entirely usual for elephants to submerge themselves like that. These guys are having a wonderful time, and it's very often young bulls who do this. Yes, Julie, you're absolutely right that you can see hippos in the background. Shelley, sorry, you can see hippos. There are lots of hippos in this waterhole. We're at a place called Chitwa, and this is the waterhole in front of the lodge there in the Sabi Sands. That is the sound of the Hammerkop flying past. And Shelley, no, they're not a danger to each other. An elephant, I suppose, a really angry elephant, could be a danger to a hippopotamus, but no, not so much in this kind of context. The elephants are not threatened by the hippo. There's plenty of water around. I have seen these elephants chase hippo out of small water holes when they want to drink. But otherwise, things are pretty friendly here. Those are the hammerkop birds. You can see them flying there over the top of the elephants, making a big noise. Egyptian geese, blacksmith lapwings, a little plover that took off there, at least a sandpiper that took off there. And, of course, the world's largest land mammal playing, or trying to pretend to be the world's largest aquatic mammal. And there you can see Ronald's feed still. I'll just try and give him one more go at an attempt at moving, but he is not in any mood to move from there. Anyway, we'll have to go and pick him up once the elephants have left, if they leave. Ronald might be in for a chilly night alone. Then let's go back to some of the hippos there. Ferg, they're doing a great job opening their mouths. There's some youngsters who are out of the water having their supper. Their mothers have told them, go and eat now. There they are, very sweet, aren't they? 3 tiny little hippopotamuses. I don't think that they are much more than, let's say 4 or 5 months each, maybe a little bit older. Isn't that sweet? Well, that's a wonderful way to end our little unscheduled social media broadcast here. So, for those of you who are watching on social media, please do keep an eye out for any further notifications. If anything else should transpire here, we'll go live again. For the rest of you, you can watch us at wildsafariLive.com. Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to leave Chitwa Dam, everybody. We can go across now to Ralphie and the wild dogs and see if they are going to actually hunt something.
Well, we haven't seen them just yet, but these wild dogs are still on the move, and we're just trying to stay just behind them, and we keep on stopping as they stop. I just see they're heading up now towards Sandy Patch, a little bit more open area. It's a little bit easier for us to follow them as well. And I think we're still hoping for being in for a treat. Here they go. And we're going to stay right behind them. And as I say, hopefully they stick near to the opportunity to follow them. But I'm right behind them. Where? Okay, so the signal's dropping a little bit, folks. I'm going to stay right behind these guys. In the meantime, you can go to Tristan, and afterwards you come back to me for an update.
Well, hopefully the gremlins will leave Ralph alone and they will soon be gone, and that all will be go to see the dogs, as I'm sure they go on their afternoon hunt. It's the right time of the day. The weather is perfect for wild dogs to be chasing all kinds of things, and so I'm sure we will see a situation where they will at some point. Now, we've just left Chitwa because, well, Hosana wasn't anywhere that we could see him. We sat there for a while and waited and checked around. We looked around for Quarantine as well, who was also seen on Chitwa this morning, but unfortunately there is very little signal down in the southeastern corner of Chitwa, and so we left that area and we now come back up towards Twin Dams, and we've got a nice group of young waterbuck at the back there, all males. These are, none of them are particularly large, and you can see the two at the back are having a bit of a game, so they're kind of heads down and every now and then push against each other, and this will all be play fighting for now. They most certainly are not going at it properly. They're still too young to be mating, both of those individuals, but at the end of the day it's good practice to be able to strengthen those necks and get the technique down pat for when they are going to have to fight and challenge for Oh, you're full of beans, aren't you? Seems as though the overcast conditions mean that these guys have got a bit of energy and a bit of spirit today, and they're running around all over the place. The problem is it seems as though it's going to be an afternoon of all of these things happening where everything just disappears. As we're watching things, they all tend to be running away rather than towards us, except for one brave soul who stayed behind. Thank you very much, sir. You have saved our afternoon of disappearing acts. From swallows and leopards to waterbuck, all of them have gone the opposite way. But anyway, that's the way it goes some days. Some days you don't have the luck and things go the other way around, but at least we got to see some spots. It's always a good day, even if it's just a glimpse, as I say. And so VM and I are still happy that we got to see some little bits of rosettes disappearing off into the distance quite quickly. Now I'm going to quickly check Twin Dams. The reason why is because Tingana was seen briefly this afternoon by a tracker on foot on Little Gowrie, and that was straight south of pretty much where we are now. Apparently he ran northwards when the trackers were tracking him, and so you never know, maybe he pops out here at Twin Dams, maybe Weaver's Nest. We'll just do a little bit of the southern section, southern boundary, and check. Maybe our last minute leopard decides to give us a last minute showing today and arrives. But before we go and check all the southern boundary, let's have a little look at Twin Dams itself and see if we have anything happening. There were two little birds here yesterday. Ah, there they are. Ralph, you're wondering what is the size of the Sabi Sands, or size of the park? Well, the Sabi Sands, if we include Mala Mala, and there you can see the little bird I was talking about. Now it's called a little grebe or dabchick, and I'll get into them now, but let's just finish with our Sabi Sand. So if we include Mala Mala into it, which is technically not really a part of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, but it is kind of mapped out in the same way, you will then see a situation where it's about 64,000 hectares or 128,000 acres, somewhere around there. And so that's the size of that area. But we are incorporated into the Greater Kruger National Park, which is about 2.2 million hectares or 4.4 million acres. So it is a very large system. That's just the South African component. There is also a Mozambican and Zimbabwean component that is attached to that Greater Kruger that makes it almost 8 million acres. So it is a big area. Now these little grebes or dab chicks, as you want to, if we want to call them that, the old name, there were two yesterday. I only see one at the moment, which is the male. So that is the male bird that is busy swimming around like that. And I love these little guys because they have a situation where they have little chicks. They put the chicks on their back when they're swimming around. So it's always good to see them, because hopefully they will have chicks at Twin Dams and we'll be able to see them with their little chicks swimming around, and we can see the little chicks being put on the back. It is the cutest thing you can ever imagine. These tiny little birds kind of on the back. And you can see why they've got the name Little Grebe, because they really are quite small. Now, it seems as though we've got a situation where a white squall is blowing in, because all of a sudden there's wind and rain and we're getting rather wet at this stage, which is not ideal. But I'll show you what I'm talking about with our bird. And I said it was a male, and I'm actually was trying to say that it's in breeding is what I was really wanting to say. But anyway, this is the word on the bottom here. That's its non-breeding coloration. You can see it's quite pale, whereas when it becomes breeding, then it gets that very chestnut color. And there's the little chick on the back, as you can see there. It's quite well shown in the book actually, and it's the coolest thing to see. I've seen it a few times where they carry their chick around on the back of them. You can see my book is blowing and getting rather wet, so before it gets too wet, I'm actually going to put that away. We also need to put a lot of rain covers on, because otherwise everything here is going to get extremely damp and extremely wet, because it's not very pleasant up on this sort of dam wall. I think what we're also going to do is try and just get off the dam wall itself. Suddenly the wind has picked up, the rain is lashing in from this left side, and so we're going to have to, like I say, try and just kind of figure out something and just drop everything as we go. But I want to just get off the dam wall, because the dam wall is the worst place to be, because there's a lot of wind and that's driving the rain into us at the moment. And obviously we've got a lot of sensitive equipment on this vehicle, and so we need a situation where we can cover it up and just drop the rain covers and try and keep everything protected from the water. But it doesn't look good at all, particularly from our eastern side. I'll show you a view of what is blown in the last 10 minutes that has come in. We came from that direction. There was not a spot of rain, but you can see it is now becoming dark grey. Even the trees themselves are starting to disappear as the rain is swallowing, and I'm sorry that there's a few spots on the lens. Like I say, it is gusting in towards us, so I'm going to try and just get into low ground, into a little bit more cover, and then we'll try and kind of cover everything up and drop our rain covers as much as possible. But that bird's very cute. I don't know if any of you have got it on your list. It might be a new one for some of you. It's the first ones I've seen here on Djuma since I've been here. But prior to now, I haven't actually seen any of them. I've only seen them in other parts of the reserve, but never here at Djuma. And in fact, I don't think I've ever seen them in the northern Sabi sands. So nice bird to see, and hopefully the pair will stick around. Like I said, there was two yesterday. I saw them very briefly, and hopefully they'll be around. The thing is why we might not be seeing one is because one might be underwater. They actually dive a lot of the time and go underwater and swim around, and then they pop back up somewhere else. So it's a nice thing to see, and hopefully we'll have a situation where we'll get them for the rest of the summer. It would be nice. They are residents, so I don't know where they've come from. Maybe they've come from some of the dams to the south of us on Londolozi and Singita and those places. I've seen them there before, and there's quite big dams there, so maybe they've come from that area. Now, down in a little bit of a dip here, which is okay because hopefully we'll get out of the rain a little bit. It's a bit more thick than either side. Nearly as unpleasant. Kind of figuring out our rain covers and how to get them on while we're talking to all of you is that I wanted to check up on a little nest. Now, I've been talking about a chagra nest that Scott found. I think it was Scott that found it, and it was somewhere here. Now I've got to look for it again. It's so well camouflaged. Ah, there it is. There we go. So there we go. Nikki's the one that spotted it. It's right here, in this twiggy entwined mess. But there is the nest for the chagra. No chagra home today, but that is the little chagra nest itself. Now, I don't know if there's any eggs in there. I can't see any eggs, but the bird has been sitting on top of it. I've seen it twice sitting there, and so we'll have to just keep monitoring and checking. It's right next to the road. It's quite amazing, actually. It really is well camouflaged, though. Look at that. When you look from here where we're sitting, it's almost invisible. So, Nikki, very well spotted. I don't know how you spotted that, but very, very good indeed. I'm quite impressed and quite surprised. It's very, very good eyes. Right. Let's see now what else we can find. It is really not very pleasant out here, actually. It's becoming one of those grey, wet evenings that we sometimes get, and hopefully there will be something that will pop out to warm up our spirits as we start to try and head slowly home. But at least Ralph seems to have had a wonderful afternoon, and completely opposite to the luck that we've had, and is still with those beautiful puppies as they run around all over the northern Sabi sands.
Okay, everybody, we've been following these wild dogs. It's been quite difficult because once they go into the thick stuff, it's really difficult to keep up with them. And we've had our work cut out for us, but they're still on the move and they are on the hunt. They spotted something just now and they absolutely raced off to chase up behind it, but then that's when we lost them, and now we've been able to catch up with them. And it's obvious that they haven't actually caught anything just yet, but they're moving south towards Vuyatela axis, and I'm sure that they're going to pop out there any moment now. And they're moving into the wind, which is great for hunting. So any unsuspecting character now that doesn't pick their approach up, I'm afraid is going to be a late afternoon lunch or an early dinner. So we're just going to try our best to keep up with them. It's really not easy, and I can't stress that enough. Once they start, they're just jogging along now quite slowly, but as soon as one of them picks their head up and sort of raises himself onto the back legs, you see them race off, and it's almost impossible to keep up with them. So we've got to try and anticipate and then go round, because to try and keep up with them in this thick bush is near most impossible. Amazing Nature asking the question, what is the biggest prey that wild dogs can hunt? Well, I've heard of them taking down young buffalo, so that is probably one of the biggest prey that they are able to take down. But they take down blue wildebeest, black wildebeest, zebra, but this is mostly youngsters, hey? And generally their biggest food source would be impala. And that sort of sized antelope. Now we have just lost them a little bit. We can see a little bit of movement here through the thickets. And here there's a hippo directly in front of us that's just crossed the road. Big old hippo there. Sorry about that shaking. Now I'm just going to stop here for a second. It's that kind of weather, everyone. The wind is really quite strong. It's a little bit of a drizzle, and that's why that hippo may be also out of the water. He's probably also feeling a bit cold, so he climb out the water to try and get some ambient temperature. With the wind blowing like that as well, you probably want to dry off. And now we've got these dogs all on the move and together again.
They're following the hippo.
It's almost like they're following the hippo, but I doubt whether they're going to try and take such a big animal on at all. Jilly saying the question, we don't see dogs at water holes much. Do they not drink much? Well, Jilly, they do, but they'll pop in to a water hole and then they're off again. So we might not have seen them on the dam cam, but I guarantee you that they would have drunk. They normally would have drunk at least twice a day. And excuse me, I'm just going to let these folks know that we do have these wild dogs again here. Station, if anybody's still looking for them at Dash, they've just gone south now off where tele access. I've still got a visual on them, but they're moving through the thickets here. And I think, I just need to check, no, they're not moving off our boundary just yet. So I'm just checking if we can go in here and try follow up behind them. We've got another vehicle there that maybe do the old anticipation and go ahead of them. Always just got to try and find a nice route through the thickets that we don't damage the vehicle too much, and also don't want to damage the vegetation. Now we found an old 2-track. We're just behind them here. It's all very exciting, isn't it? This 2-track at least moving alongside them. Wow. What a privilege, huh? To be on the hunt with wild dogs. It's really something out of this world. They're moving along just next to us. Sorry, I know it's not easy for Senzo to direct the camera while we're bumping along like this, but I'm sure you're going to catch a glimpse of them. I don't want to get too close to them, and also I don't want to give away their presence to any potential prey. Okay, Senzo is just wiping the lens there, folks. We do have a little bit of rain coming through, so I'm sure you can feel the atmosphere now. It's electric. We've got this clouds that are very low to the ground. We've got a little bit of drizzle, and we've got these wild dogs on the hunt. Turn in a little bit towards them. They are heading towards the Sabi Sands gate. Ooh, there's a little steenbok that's just run through the thickets. Don't know if they spotted him.
Yeah,
they spotted him. They're off. Let's see if we can keep up behind them. They're not racing. I don't know if they're right behind him. They're moving in the same direction. Okay. Senzo also, because he's in a higher position, he's just trying to help me as we go through the thick stuff here, and also just point me in a direction. Sorry if I'm not looking back too much. I'm just trying to concentrate on these animals up front. Dina K asking the question, can wild dogs bring down a hippo? I think that is one step a little bit too far for them, Dina K. Hippos are very stout, sturdy animals, and for wild dogs to bring down one of them, I think would be right near impossible. Now, they've gone into very thick stuff here, everyone, and I'm not sure that I will be able to go in there. I might need to loop around and try and catch up with them on a road on the other side, because I'm going to do some damage to this vehicle. and to lots of vegetation as well. Now I'm just going to press this one small little branch down just to go through over that. There is a road just nearby, so I'm going to just try and cut through there and get to that road. They went into a little bit of a donga. Okay, everybody, I'm going to try and relocate these wild dogs. In the meantime, let's go over to Tristan and see what he has got for you.
Well, nothing much at this stage, Ralph. We've just been fighting with our rain covers, and so far we've won now. It was rain cover at one stage was giving us a hard time, but we managed to fix it all. It's a new rain cover, actually, that goes on here, so it's a bit of a kind of jostling match just to get it all to line up correctly, but once we got it all right, everything is now perfectly sealed and watertight, I would say is probably a strong word, but as good as it can be. Dina K, you say that was number 23 on your list, the little grebe. Well, that is a good bird to have on the list. I feel like you will have many more that you're going to add. If you're on 23, you're going to have a lot more, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll get you well over 100, because it's the best time of year for birding, and we're seeing a lot of migratory birds around. In fact, I'm quite surprised because we haven't seen the carmine bee-eaters yet. I would have thought they might have been here by now. They normally arrive in December, and so I thought we would have seen them by now, but alas, not yet. What I did see this morning that was really cool is I was driving back at the end of our rehearsal, and Scott was on quarantine, and Scott also actually saw it, but he didn't get as good a look at it as I did, and I actually said to him later, did you see it? And he said yes, he did, but he wasn't sure. But I saw a Lana falcon this morning, which is very cool to see. It's one of the larger falcons that we see here, and it was flying over quarantine, and it was causing much chaos on quarantine. Lots of birds were alarm calling, but very nice to see them. I haven't seen one of those in a long time, so that was nice. We also, of course, need to look out for the peregrine falcons. We saw one on Cheetah Plain at one point. I think Brent saw them there. And there's also the Eurasian hobbies that do come at this time of the year as well. So we need to look out for them. They're a great bird to see. So hopefully we'll get them as well. And that we will build your bird list further and further, Dina K. I'm sure there's lots of others that added the little grebe onto their list as well. I'm sure it's not only you that needed it on their sort of checklist as they go about it. It's actually been a really good year for birding in South Africa. South Africa has seen a number of mega rarities show up, as well as new birds that have never been recorded in the sub-region before. So it's actually been a great year birding wise, and there's been a number of people that are reaching some serious milestones. I'm often follow a group of birders, SA Rare Birds, and in the last couple of days it seems like everybody is just ticking off rare birds all over the place, and so hopefully we'll get some rare birds our side. I'm sure we will. We often get just strange things, and weather like this is going to be the perfect kind of weather for a rare bird to blow in. You get these big storm fronts that move through, and these birds then get pushed towards these areas off the coastal areas, especially if it's been a cyclonic system of the Madagascar Channel. Then you get them pushed into this area, and you'll see rarities coming from there. So hopefully there'll be some nice birds, and we'll see some good stuff. Now I believe my gremlins have climbed on board again, and so before they climb on properly and we try to shake them off, let's go back across to James.
Hello. Yes, here we are, finding ourselves in something of a deluge. You can see that our friend Marvin here has got a ghostly blanket on him on account of the fact that the precipitation has been fairly unpleasant on our way back from Chitwa. The elephants had their swim, the hippos came out of the water, and the rain began to fall. Now, Maresh, you're running about Ronald and how fast he can move. He looks much faster than he is when you watch from his perspective. He's actually pretty slow. Probably about, what should we say, 1 meter per second, maybe even less, 0.9 meters per second, 0.8 meters per second. He's like a sort of Olympic tortoise, yes, as Fergus says. Yeah, an Olympic speed tortoise. not very quick at all. It takes forever to get him where you want him to be, and so it's much better to put him there by hand and then just maneuver a little bit. Anyway, he's had a wonderful day today. He spent a lot of time with some waterbuck, a wildebeest, some nyala, and then eventually with some elephants. He likes elephants. Elephants don't like him very much. For those of you who missed it, he was kicked into the water once by a recalcitrant elephant bull. It walked past him once, gave him a bit of a sniff, and then took 2 steps backwards, and a little bit like Lionel Messi kicking a penalty with the side of his foot he went, and the Ronald disappeared into the water. It was very distressing. Right, we're back on quarantine because we're trying to escape the weather, and so what we have here is some impala. So I think we should just have an impala sighting. Let me get into a position where the pole is not, I nearly said it again, in pole position. How's that, Ferg? That was hilarious, wasn't it? I'm so funny. And now my wire is stuck. There we are. Impalas. Not a nice evening ahead for them. Every predator with a quarter of a brain is going to come wandering past here at some time during the night. See if they can't find something lurking on the clearings. And if I were those wild dogs, I'd be heading down here. It wouldn't be surprising, in fact, if they did pitch up here fairly quickly. Likewise, if I was Tingana, and, well, he's probably not hungry at the moment, but if I was a hungry leopard, this is where I would come. Some males up over the top of my head, Ferg, having a little bit of a boxing match. Somewhere up there. There they go. That's quite a nice little picture of them running through the woodlands. That sort of clicking and flapping noise you can hear is the flapping of the flaps in the wind. Ah, now Lisa Marie, you too want to know about Ronald and how far his signal is. Well, I must confess that we have got a fairly genius group of people in the tech department. J-Rod, Conrad, the 2 sort of main builders at the moment of Ronald and his new life as a mobile rover. You know, he comes on the car with us. And it's probably about 120 meters as of today. It was much shorter than that, probably only about 30 to 50 meters before today, but they did some modifications, and now Ronald can go up to 120 meters from the car and still have a signal. So his signal comes from him into the car, and then out of the car to one of the repeaters, and then into the final control. So it's a really complicated system, and much the same with the drone when we use it. Alrighty, we're going to continue driving around quarantine. Perhaps those wild dogs will appear shortly, perhaps not, but to tell you whether they are coming this way or not, let us head back to Ralph.
Okay everyone, we lost those wild dogs in the thicket. I tried my best to chase up behind them. We relocated onto the road and tried to get up in front of them, and as we did, the rain came pelting down, so we had to quickly stop and close everything up, get some cover on all our stuff, and then now I'm trying to relocate. So we raced ahead and we checked in front, and we found some kudu who were non-perturbed by anything, so we're pretty sure that the wild dogs didn't get that far, because if they had have, those kudu would have been a little bit more skittish. And we've got Zach asking a question, who's only 8. Thanks for your question, Zach. And he's asking, are wild dogs ever aggressive? Zach, not to us particularly, but if we're on foot, they can be a little bit scared of us. They can be a little bit aggressive towards us, but they can be very aggressive towards animals that they want to eat. That is what they want to do. Now, excuse us, Senzo is just clearing the screen. It is raining. So folks, I'm not sure that we're going to catch up with these wild dogs. I'm really now just taking a chance. We're going to head onto the road and make our way back. It is now heading towards the end of the show, so I'm not really sure that we're going to get a last fleeting sighting of these wild dogs, which is very disappointing, but it's very normal for this to happen. Now, we lost them in this area where we chased off to the south of the road here through the thickets, and they were bounding around trying to catch some small antelope. We spotted a steenbok that brushed up out of the bush, and he raced off, and they did seem to go off after him. So it seems there was action, but once they start on that pure hunt and race through the thickets, it is very difficult to catch up with them. So we're still just skirting around. Look, the chances are very slim now. So folks, it's getting towards the end, and I would just like to say a very big thank you to all the viewers that have been watching. Please join us again tomorrow. Thank you for the Djuma crew. Thank you to the Masai Mara crew. And folks, we would love to see you again tomorrow on safari. Good night, God bless, and goodbye. Mwah.